Hello, disc golfers and disc golfettes. Is that a thing?
Oh.
I don't know. It's time for your moment of Zen. Effortless activity happens at moments in dance and in its sports at the highest levels of performance. When it does, it takes everybody's breath away. Action then becomes a piece of your expression of art, of being, of letting go, of all doing, a merging of mind and body in motion. And that's from Wherever You Go, There You Are by Jon Kabat-Zinn. This is episode 6 of the Zen Disc Golf Podcast. What's up, Zach?
Hey, Pat, what's going on?
Oh, you know, just casting the pods, as Kevin Smith would say.
Digging it.
Are you a Kevin Smith fan?
Absolutely.
I've always been one. He's got some of the greatest podcasts on the air, so you should check those out.
And Jason Mewes is hilarious.
Yeah. Jay and Silent Bob Get Old is one of my favorite podcasts.
I gotta go back and listen to it.
Yeah, you should check it out. So anyway, I'm really excited about this podcast today, primarily because we're going to take this in a new direction. And, you know, we were kind of roaming a little aimlessly for the past couple of podcasts. They were all great in their own way. But just kind of was a sort of a self-discovery or a discovery for the both of us as to what we really wanted to do with this cast. And I think we're finally landing a little closer to being where we want to be with the podcast now. What do you think?
I think so, Pat. I think that this podcast is something that's going to be really special to the direction this is going to go in.
Awesome. We're going to start making it a little more of a sibling, if you may, to the book. So we're going to tackle a lot of different topics on disc golf, but also mindfulness and mental strength, mental toughness, and what it really takes mentally to win on the disc golf course and in life. And that's exactly what the book is about. Many of you who've listened before may have noticed that our moment of Zen didn't come exactly from Zen and the Art of Disc Golf. It's come from another piece of work that I think is pretty important. And we started talking about where we wanted to take this podcast, and we started talking about some of the literary things that we've been looking at, or I'd been looking at, and you said, send me a reading list.
Yes, absolutely.
So I've given Zach his homework, as it were, to start his studies. And I kind of felt bad about that for a second, but then I thought, you know what? You asked for it, and it's going to make you a better man.
Absolutely. I look forward to everything I've read so far has improved my quality of living. And
not that you aren't a good man before. You are a great man. I wouldn't have a not good man here co-hosting with me, but it's going to be a growth and learning process for the both of us.
Absolutely.
And that the book that I mentioned earlier was Wherever You Go, There You Are by Jon Kabat-Zinn, and it's an excellent book worth checking out, especially if you like Zen and the Art of Disc Golf. I want to read this letter I got emailed to me real quick. And this kind of details exactly why we're going in the direction that we're going. I'm going to keep it anonymous. We're not going to say who wrote it. And hopefully this person, I did send him an email and ask him, make sure it was okay that I read it. I didn't get a response, but we're just going to keep this anonymous. You haven't read this, right?
No, I haven't read it yet.
Yeah. All right, here it goes. My girlfriend recently bought me your book, and although it hasn't arrived yet, I've been reading the blog and listening to the podcast, and already my game and attitude has improved. Throughout my life, a self-deprecating attitude and general depression/anxiety has held me back from excelling at all the things I love. I'm a musician like you with similar goals in the audio engineering field. And although I was always aware of the practice of mindfulness, I could never wrap my head around it and really control my automatic thoughts and emotions. This inability to quell my constant negative thoughts manifested itself early and sprouted some pretty serious depression and anxiety. A few years ago, I fell in love with disc golf, and I haven't looked back because of the amazing therapeutic benefits it provided for me. But off the course, things were still bleak most of the time. But with your book, I feel like an entirely new door is about to open that will take my appreciation and love for the sport to a new level. I'm so excited to finally try exercising mindfulness and being present through the lens of something that I'm already very familiar with, disc golf, because it might be the lens through which I can apply it to my entire life, much like many others have said they've done. So thanks for doing this wonderful thing for disc golf, especially for people struggling to apply positive thinking in their lives. In a recent Disc Golf Matters documentary, Chris Brophy says something to the effect of, I don't want to say disc golf is going to save the world, but it's going to save the world. And maybe it will, but whether or not it does, it will save or at least improve countless lives along the way, myself included. Thank you, Patrick. Best wishes. It's pretty powerful stuff.
Absolutely it is.
That guy took a lot of time to really write that down and send it to me, so I hope he's not offended that I read it over the podcast. I get letters like this on a semi-constant basis, and let me tell you, Zach, they improve my day like immensely. And ironically, it seems like I get these letters when I'm personally feeling down about the brand or about Zen Disc Golf in general. And when I say I'm feeling down about it, I've accomplished a whole lot, but I'm just like everybody else. You know, I struggle with thinking, in certain ways, and I have to be mindful of the way that I think in order to change my way of thinking. And so there were certain things that kind of occurred within the week or within the past 2 weeks that made me feel a little bit just question the direction of where we were going with the cast. And we were on the phone and we talked back and forth about what we wanted to do with this. Not just the podcast, but Zen Disc Golf overall. And I got this email and I didn't know what I was expecting, but I saw the subject line. I don't remember what the subject was, but I closed my eyes and said, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Instead of, oh, here comes, and and I opened it and I was really amazed, and that really brought this to a new light. And I'm really excited where we're going with this podcast.
All right, me too. Absolutely. I think that's a great email to get, and I think that people are going to reap the benefits of, call it the brainstorming that's been underway.
Yep, exactly. So each podcast, what we're going to do now is go over a certain topic. And originally this was going to be a Zen Disc Golf Podcast word of the day. But then as I was telling Zach a little bit earlier today, I think that's a little bit limiting because sometimes a topic is more than one word.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Today's podcast, we're going to be talking about meditation. And so when I named the book Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, many of you who have read it, in the beginning, it says what this book is and what this book is not. And when I said what this book is not, that's what I started with. I said it's not a book on how to play disc golf.
Right.
It's not a book on how to be a Zen master.
Right.
What this book is it's how to combine mind, body, and spirit together to become better players and better people in our lives. And so a lot of the topics that we're going to discuss are going to be such as, today we're going to be talking about meditation, and the next episode we'll probably be talking about confidence. We're going to talk about focus. We're going to talk about attitude. We're going to talk about self-talk, resilience, many other topics and words that come to mind when we're thinking of mental toughness on the disc golf course and in life.
Exactly.
So today we're going to be talking about meditation. First of all, we're going to talk about the word meditation and what it means, what the word actually means, because it's got a lot of stigma attached to it. What's your experience with meditation, Zach?
Well, mine's been exceptionally positive. I have never once been in the middle of meditating and not come out the other side more relaxed, more centered, and more focused. I think a lot of people have a misguided representation of what it means and even how to do it. And I think that through one, listening to us talk about it, and two, the practice of it will probably dispel a lot of the negative feelings towards meditation.
Excellently said. So we're going to start with the Webster's meaning, or the Webster's definition of the word meditation. And here's some of their definitions. The act or process of spending time in quiet thought. The act or process of meditating. And it also means a discourse intended to express its author's reflections or to guide others in contemplation. And that's a little bit closer to when I reference meditation that I wrote about in Zen, the Art of Disc Golf. Those were my meditations. Each chapter came from a round of disc golf on the course. I would either make notes on it or rush home, actually, drop my discs and rush home to write a different entry. You've often heard me say that I didn't even know this was going to be a book. A lot of them were journal entries. They were meditations on how I was thinking, how was affecting the game, and oh my God, this is the same thing as when I'm at work or when I'm in a relationship with my wife and things like that.
Right.
So you could always couple them together. But meditation, according to Webster's, the act or process of spending time in quiet thought. They don't say anything about sitting cross-legged. They don't say anything about it being a religious practice at that point. They don't say anything about anything that a lot of times when you hear meditation, you hear some guys, especially alpha males, oh, I don't need to do that. That's,
No, I'm too tough for that.
Or yeah, that's spiritual bull or whatever.
It's exactly what it says. The act or process of spending quiet time in thought. You don't have to be wearing sandals and a beaded necklace and a tie-dye t-shirt to sit down and do this.
There you go.
You can do this in blue jeans. You can do this in military uniform, which I've done. It doesn't matter where you are, when you are, how you are. Just sit down and think quietly. You'd be surprised what you can learn through just sitting quietly.
And actually, the entire book, Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, makes the argument that a round of disc golf is meditation in itself.
Yeah, I argue that to just about anybody. It'd take a real impressive argument to dissuade me otherwise, because how many other activities do you have where you're by yourself for, give it 2-3 hours at a time, focused on one simple task, which would be put this disc in that basket?
Absolutely. And that's basically what the whole book is about. It's taking a look at disc golf from another angle. You can look at it from the competitive angle. You can look at it from the getting out in nature angle. You can look at it from, this is a sport, this is a game. But if you take a look at it at its most baser nature, its most basic nature, it's your plastic, that basket, and using the proper type of thinking in order to let your body do what you've trained it to do.
Yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about I'm going to quote a little bit more of Jon Kabat-Zinn. And for anybody who doesn't know who that is, he wrote that book that I mentioned earlier, Wherever You Go, There You Are. And he has some other books, Full Catastrophe Living, which I've also read. It's a pretty good book. But basically, he's an expert in mindfulness. He says in Pali, which is the original language of the Buddha, there is no one word corresponding to our word meditation, even though meditation may have been said to evolve in an extraordinary degree in ancient Indian culture. The word that's most frequently used is bhavana, and this is translated to development through mental training. So the word that was used most often in Pali for the word meditation simply means development through mental training. And that goes along with everything that we're saying on the disc golf course.
Yes.
If we look at it from a certain angle, if we look at disc golf from the angle of we are not just, it's not just about that round, but it's about watching how we're thinking, being mindful about our thoughts, and clipping what is not useful to us and holding on to what is useful to us.
Yes.
In our game.
Yes.
All right. Zach, if you have a disc in your bag and you just can't throw it, it's not doing any good for you.
Right.
If you keep trying to throw that disc, it's just not the disc for you, right? Somebody else it might be useful to somebody else, but it's not your disc. In fact, what you just gave me a disc earlier today.
Yeah, I did. G-Star Leopard.
You gave me a G-Star Leopard, and you said, "Why did you give that to me?"
I can't throw it.
You don't have a use for it in your bag or in your game.
Nope.
Pat, do you have use for a leopard? Yeah, I throw a leopard occasionally. Sure, I'll take that, and we're gonna figure out some good trade for you. But it's the same thing with your thinking in your mind. If you have a certain thought in your mind that you figure out, this is of no use. Why do I keep this thought keep coming to me? That thought could be, I can't make these putts. I'm not putting good today. I'm just not putting good today. What kind of good does that thought do to you when you're getting ready to make your shot?
It doesn't. It absolutely destroys your ability to have a confident shot when you step up to make those challenging putts versus stepping up to that 30-foot putt in a 10-mile-an-hour wind and saying, okay, I'm having a bad day, but I've made this shot before, and I can make it again.
Absolutely.
You get back to your mechanics, and you clear your mind, and you let her fly, and whatever happens, happens.
So a thought is a tool.
Yes.
Essentially, just like a disc in your bag. If you have a thought that's not helping you, remove it from your bag. Yes. I'm not saying give it to somebody else. But
hey, Pat, here's my bad attitude.
Here's my bad. So John Kabat-Zinn also says that people think of meditation as some kind of special activity, but this is not exactly correct. It's about stopping and being present. That is all. How often do we walk through life staring at our feet?
A lot.
Not hearing what's going on around us, not paying attention. How many times have you been on the disc golf course where you've played 18 holes and you're like, where did my round go? I don't remember my score. I don't remember what I threw. I don't even remember how good I played because our mind wasn't even there.
Yes.
That's something I call autopilot, and we're going to go over that on a different podcast. But the act of ending that autopilot is to stop or to realize that that's what's going on, that you're not paying attention, and to begin to be mindful.
Yeah.
And that takes practice. It takes recognizing. It takes a level of awareness of saying, I need to stop for a second. And one way that you could practice that on the disc golf course to quiet your mind is when you're getting ready to make your shot and you think back and you go, I don't remember my last 3 shots, or my last 3 shots were really poor. Maybe when you step up to make that shot, stop. Listen to the birds, listen to the breeze, see what's going on around you, feel the disc in your hands, visualize, and put that disc in the basket.
Yes.
So meditation does not involve trying to change your thinking by adding more thinking, but it's about watching the thought itself. So in my book, Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, I gave several different definitions to the word meditation. And so I'll read some of those here. Meditation is an ongoing process in the mind where we try to remain focused in a world where we are constantly barraged with various distractions. Your job, bills, family, money, all of these things are on a constant tape loop in our minds, and it makes it really difficult to focus on things that really matter, our happiness. And as a result, the happiness we can bring to others. Meditation is taking time to nourish the spirit. Once practiced, you will notice how thoughts surface in your mind from day to day, and if they do not benefit your goal or purpose, you'll be able to let them go. This is true meditation. And this is one of I really like this sentence, and I know I wrote it, so of course I have to be. But I think about this sentence. This sentence came to me long before I ever thought about writing a book, and I hope I didn't steal it from somewhere because it's just so beautiful. But Zen is dismantling this ticking time bomb of your thoughts and attitudes, no longer letting them rule you, but ruling over them. This is success.
Yes.
So the ticking time bomb of your thoughts is, with time, if you do not recognize and be mindful of the way that you're thinking, do not notice the truths you're telling yourself or the lies that you tell yourself, because we tell ourselves a lot of lies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I can't make this shot. That's a lie. If someone else can make that shot, so can you.
Exactly.
So if you're not aware of those things build up and build up and build up. And eventually, it's going to crash the system.
And yeah, there's no way that constant buildup of negativity is going to come out in a positive form.
Absolutely. And so I want to close this topic today with a quote from one of my favorite writers here, Marcus Aurelius. And I've just got Zach to check out Meditations. That's his book. It's a collection of his writings, oddly enough. And when the book is titled Meditations, it's not talking about, times where I sat cross-legged and did this, that, and that. Not that that's not acceptable. I do that daily. Before doing anything else, I try to do mindfulness meditation. But I also practice on the disc golf course. But he wrote a book called Meditations, and that's using the other definition, which is intended to express the author's reflection or guide others in contemplation.
Yes.
Greatly recommend it. How are you liking Marcus Aurelius?
I think I'm at about 25% done with the book, according to my Kindle, and wow, just unbelievable amounts of insight into one's own mind and how to conduct yourself in a positive mental manner. And like you said, clip those negative aspects from your thinking. Just, if you haven't read the book and you need to develop mental tenacity or strength and you have not read Meditations, or you have not read Zen Disc Golf or Zen and the Art of Disc Golf, well, you need to get on that one. You're missing out.
Yeah, and it was free on Kindle, wasn't it?
Absolutely it is.
It's an old book. It's 2,000 years old, so they got it for free on there. So you have no excuse. Check it out. Okay, this is from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. This is one of my favorite pieces that relates exactly to this topic. For there is no retreat that is quieter or freer from the trouble of man's own soul, especially when he has within him such thoughts that by looking into them he is immediately in perfect tranquility. And tranquility is nothing else than good ordering of the mind. Constantly then give it to yourself this retreat, and renew yourself, and let your principles be brief and fundamental, which, as soon as you reoccur them, will be sufficient to cleanse the soul completely and send you back free from all discontent with all things which you return. So, Zach, there were one Twitter question for us, and I'd like you to field this one.
Okay.
It comes from LionsFan1, and he asks about bag load out strategies. Do you try to cover understable, overstable for each driver, control driver, fairway, mid, putter? How do you, when you're picking apart those discs to pull out of your bag, just like we were just talking about, how do you what do you decide stays and what goes?
Well, to answer your question, Lions Fan 1 and Pat, I've narrowed down my bag significantly over the last 2 or 3 months. I carried a much larger bag with probably 10 or 15 more discs, and I found a lot of times that I was just doubling up instead of trying to actually learn the plastic. So for my putters, I keep two in the front, which are my go-to putters that are just dead straight. They go where my hand goes, and if I make a mistake with my technique, I miss. So that forces me to have good technique each putt, and then I can use those for straight, tight window shots as well for my up shots.
Is one more beat in than the other, or what? Are they the exact same putter?
They are. They're exact same putter.
Oh, they're the two hunters.
The two hunters. That's right.
Okay.
The only there's a 2 gram difference in them, and I don't think it makes too much of a difference. And I try to rotate them as evenly as possible. I usually pull the back one first, and then I swap. Then I have 3 gateway putters that I use for all sorts of different things. I use my Wizard for Anheuser throws exclusively. That's it. I'd use it for nothing else. And anybody that uses a Wizard knows it's relatively straight, but it's an easy disc to shot shape. I use my soft Voodoo off the tee for extreme anhyzer angles, as well as gentle shot shaping. I can put a little bit of hyzer on it. It's going to flex out, do that nice hyzer flip, and end clean and straight.
So do you select these discs that go into your bag? What basis are you using to put them in the bag? I think that's what Lions fan is asking.
Got you.
Because I'm going to be honest with you. This is what I have the especially the ability now because of infinite discs.
Yeah.
And also Discmania, of having a rather large collection in my trunk. And I'm going to be honest with you, I switch out discs based on the course I'm going to throw. So if I'm playing Northwest, I'm putting a load of straight discs in there because it's more of a finesse game at Northwest than it is at Munden. If I'm at Munden, I may throw shorter range discs and a couple really, really long ones in there, but nothing too much in the mid because I'm going to throw just a ton of putters off the tee.
Right.
So what basis do you use for the selection for your bag? Do you keep your bag the same every round? Or what?
Yes, I do. What I have in my bag is what I keep. And all of the discs that I have in there I've used for several years. That particular type of disc, not the same, some of them the same ones, but it just comes down to I know the plastic, I know what it's done in the past, in the present, and what it's kind of degrading into the future, and I've learned that plastic to the point where I can shot shape and I don't have a single disc in that bag that I throw and I don't know exactly where it's going to go, with the exception of the kite, because the kite has a mind of its own.
Okay. See, it is interesting how we select what we're going to throw. And so you pretty much keep a very static bag, and I keep a very dynamic bag. And I'll give you so far as, and I didn't even really know I was doing this until I thought about this question and started putting it together. But like, it's to the point where if I'm playing Newport News, I know on hole 8 I throw a groove, so I throw a groove in the bag. But I don't throw a groove at Northwest. I'll take the groove out of the bag, and I'll throw a Truth or a Claymore in there, an extra, So it's kind of interesting.
It is. It really is. I know for I don't know. I like my groove for a tomahawk, and you never know in a given round when you're going to need a tomahawk, so that never comes out. It just no.
What do you throw on a tomahawk? Do you have a specific?
Just one. I have the one groove here that I always have.
Oh, okay. You do throw the groove.
The tie dye. And then
what makes that a good tomahawk disc?
That's a good question. When you throw the tomahawk and you see kind of flips, flies around, it's the only one that's consistent for me. If I throw my boss, for instance, on a tomahawk, it's way too aggressive, way too fast, and they're the same speed. I think it really comes down to that the groove in the rim gives it a different type of flight quality that I can't match with another disc on a tomahawk.
Okay, I don't really throw a tomahawk. I guess I have it in my toolbox, but I really use the closest thing I throw to a tomahawk is a flick shot, say at a very, very high angle with my Discraft flick, because that disc is so extremely overstable. I throw that thing, and people who've never seen that thing fly, they think it's a magic trick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I hope that answered your question, Lions fan. As far as reasons to put something in your bag or reasons to pull things out of your bag, Zach here keeps a very static bag, and I keep a very dynamic bag just based on wherever I'm playing. Which goes right into our next segment. What are you throwing, Zach?
That's a good question. The disc that I've chosen for this particular iteration of what's in the bag here, what are you throwing, is the Innova Star Plastic T-Rex. So it's very overstable, and it's for what's described as monster throws. High speed and a lot of stability, and it can take a lot of power. I pull this out of the bag when I know that I need to break at a minimum 300, but if I need to be able to poke out there to 400 feet. I like it in Star. It's grippy plastic. A lot of the time I don't like Star plastic, especially for mids, but for a driver I think it's absolutely wonderful. Over time it's become slightly less stable, and it allows for a lot straighter shot. And I like the way that it's degraded slowly, because after a while you beat a disc in and it kind of changes those flight patterns to a minute amount over time. And the more that I throw it, the better those throws have become because of that gradual degradation.
Do you ever purposely beat in discs because you are looking for that certain flight characteristic?
Yeah. So, for instance, when you and I will go play around, and I'll bring Brandon, for instance, I'll give him whatever I want broken in, and he'll just throw it. And of course, he's going to hit 65 trees, and he's all for it. So he's like, hey, just give me whatever you want beat up. And so if I have a new driver or a new mid that I need to bring along faster, I'll bring him out and let him cut trees down.
That's so funny, because I was out on the course the other day, and I had a very, very new person out, very green, and I gave him a couple discs, and he hit a lot of trees, but that's okay. That's what you do in disc golf. You hit trees and you hit chains. Hopefully you hit more chains than trees, but that's what you do.
Yes.
I often say, and it's even in my book, if you haven't hit a tree, you're not playing. If you haven't lost a disc, you're not playing.
Exactly.
So he goes, oh, man, I'm sorry. I'm just destroying these discs. And I said, nah, man, keep it going.
Exactly. I mean, hey, it saves you a lot. So looking at my T-Rex here, I'm a huge fan of the rim depth. That's supposed to be 1.2 centimeters, and I agree with that. Rim width, 2.2 centimeters. I also agree with that. That, for me, is ideal. And I know it's highly specific, and I don't mean it in the sense that I will go to the store with a ruler. That'd be ridiculous. But it's just the feel of it fits my hands. And I know
out of anybody who would, though, I think it would be you.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That's why I have you on the podcast. You're the disc expert.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So looking at what we have here, so it just feels good in my hand. And anybody who's seen me knows that I'm a very slender person, so I don't like things that are cumbersome. So it fits my hand well, and it's easy for me to get a good grip and throw it pretty hard. So this disc is rated at an 11 speed, and I agree with that. And for me, if I want to throw far, I need to slow it down a little bit. I can throw my boss a long way, but it's fast and it's finicky to me, and I don't like it. So I like to use this 11 speed driver because it's easier for me to control an 11 than a 13. Glide is 4, and I agree with that. It sails. No ifs, ands, or buts. Doesn't matter which way the wind's going, it's going to go. Turn is 0. For my money, on a driver that I need to throw a long way and keep it straight, that turn needs to be 0. And that's why I keep this in the bag. You'll notice a lot of my mids, all zeros. Got to have it.
Okay.
I can shape better with a 0 than I can with, say, a -1, -2, -3. I keep some of those in the bag, don't get me wrong. But when I know that I need to manipulate a disc, I'm pulling out one with the 0 turn. And then, of course, with your T-Rex, being that it's an overstable distance driver, that fades a 4. I agree with that. It goes, and when it's coming down, it's coming down. And fortunately sometimes, and unfortunately other times, holy cow, can it skip. But I think anybody who's been able to throw a flick and see it bounce up off the ground, and you're like, oh, yeah, oh, no, stop. But so that's what I'm throwing, Pat, is that's the end of a Star T-Rex, and I'm throwing that at 175 grams. Huge fan. If you've never thrown one, get out there and check it out. And if you want to throw one a long way, far, fast, and straight, get out there and huck one. Tell me what you think.
Right on. Let me ask you a question about glide.
Sure.
In a windy situation, would you disc down your glide or disc up your glide? Because the glide is what happens when the spin is sort of almost it's at its peak, right?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No.
And then the wind or the kind of well, I guess you're better at wording what I'm trying to say.
So, yes, and I understand what you're saying. So if I'm throwing into the wind on a, say, 200-foot shot, up shot maybe, or even a putter drive, I'll throw one of the hunters that I have, because you've seen how they fly. You've got to throw it hard, and they fly, in my opinion, like a Led Zeppelin when they slow down.
Okay.
Do they glide forever? Yes, but they aren't really fast.
What's the glide on that disc?
It's a 3. Yeah, let me double check that. 3.5. I disagree with that.
That's right. You talked about that.
I disagree with that. I would maybe say 2. Now, if I'm throwing with a tailwind, I'm trying to throw something with a 4 or 5 glide. Okay. Just because the wind's going to push it down.
It puts it out there.
Yeah, and that'll help it
carry.
So
when we say disc up or disc down, I mean, is there such thing of just discing down your glide if you have the amount of discs to do that? Would you ever do that?
I have, yes, and I do and given occasions, especially when you're playing in some of the coastal areas here where the wind's a real factor, you have to have that flexibility in your bag to be able to reach in and say, okay, this is what my wind conditions look like. I need to make some changes. And I didn't have that 3 months ago. This is something I've learned from playing, again, coastal areas, Munden Point, New Bern, North Carolina, things like that, where you're throwing a disc into the wind, it's just getting obliterated, and you're, you can't be accurate because you're throwing the wrong plastic.
Wind really can kick your butt out there at Munden. So I am throwing a Discmania MD2, and I'm loving it, Zach.
I can tell you throw Discmania like it's going out of style.
And I didn't. It's not just because they sent it to me. They sent me a couple boxes of discs, and I'm not just saying this because they sent them to me, but I just slowly started incorporating them in my bag.
Yep.
And after a while, I said, let's just go ahead and try this out. Well, some of their drivers, I'm throwing farther than any driver I have in my bag. So boom, some of the drivers are coming out of the bag now. I mean, that kind of answers that other question too. Once you have discs that are just working for you, you start taking out discs that you thought were working for you, but they're not working as well as new ones. The MD2 kind of sat on my desk for almost a month before I decided to actually take it out. Once I launched it, I was so impressed that it is my overstable mid. It hasn't replaced my Claymore because that thing is just super straight and glide for days.
Yep.
But the MD2's got a pretty good glide on it too. The numbers on the MD2 are speed 4, glide 5, turn 0, fade 2. And that's working for me most of the time. Yesterday I was out at Newport News Park, and I decided that I was going to play a 2-disc game and just used the P1 putter from Discmania and the MD2. I shot a -2.
That's a good round.
With 2 discs.
Nice.
And it's not because I'm the most amazing player there is.
Second most probably behind me, but go on.
Yeah, I said it's not. And to be honest, I was out there playing with my boss. Something really cool that's come up over the past month or so is I've gotten everybody from the fire station almost to go play. Nice. And they are all in. I mean, they're going and they're buying their discs. They've bought their year-long passes and everything. They're all in. I'm playing at least 2 or 3 times with my boss. And what's kind of amusing about that is you always hear about, in the white collar world, all the people out there playing ball golf and making connections out there on the course. Well, we're making connections on the disc golf course with my blue collar job, which is firefighting.
Absolutely.
So it's been really cool and really productive for me, and the guys are out there loving it. I was supposed to play today, but they wussed out because of rain.
Oh,
yeah, it was kind of sad. We were supposed to go play Bayville, which tolerates rain probably the best out of every course here in the Eastern Virginian area.
Oh, you don't want to be on Northwest River when it's wet. There's mosquitoes everywhere.
Yeah, and parts of Newport News flood, and Munden kind of flood.
Gets a little soggy.
Soggy. But that one, because it's a lot of mulch, and it's graded very, very well. So let's talk about what's new with Zen. I'm waiting on the audiobook to be completed. Actually, it's completed. I'm waiting on I don't know what it's called, the production company, syndication company. I don't know what they're called.
Right.
I'm waiting on them, distribution, maybe even be a better word for them. I'm waiting for them to approve the final. They ended up sending it back and saying that it was denied because there needed to be a half second of silence in the intro of every track and at least 1 second of silence at the end of every track. So I had to send it back to the producer and add those changes. Very, very small changes, but that kind of set me back to the 15-day mark. So it'll be about 10 days left now.
Talk about being a stickler. Holy cow.
Right? There wasn't a 0.5 second silence of intro for each track.
This is unacceptable.
Well, I mean, and I get it. It's the quality issue.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We don't want people to feel rushed between their intros and their outros. Just, no, can't have it.
Right. Dude, I can't wait for that thing to come out. It's going to be amazing. And Matt Hayes, again, God, what a great guy. He's been like on board with everything, and every like piece of constructive criticism I've sent him just went right along with it, on it, and just his professionalism, his voice and everything.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
I can't wait. I'm excited.
So again, that's going to be on iTunes, Audible, and Amazon when it comes out.
Awesome. I'll be all over it on Amazon.
I don't know what the price is going to be just yet, so we'll find out.
Fair enough.
Speaking of Amazon, it's time to do our signed book giveaway. Would you do the honors on that, Zach?
Absolutely. All right. So today's review comes from Jason Trudeau from December 13th of 2014. He has the Kindle edition titled this review, "Do Yourself a Favor and Read This Book." The review is as follows. Just started reading it. Now time to chase those chains, then get back to reading. Very well written. And if this book doesn't make you want to pick up a disc and go throw, then you might not even be human.
Awesome. So, Jason, if you send me an email, zendiscgolf@gmail.com, I'm going to send you a signed book. Thank you so much for that 5-star review. Again, if you'd like to win a signed book from yours truly, leave a... well, you need to read the book first.
It's probably a good start.
I mean, why would you want it signed if you hadn't read it or owned it?
It's a bold strategy.
Well, I mean, I just thought of it right now, actually.
Yeah.
But if you'd like a signed book from yours truly, leave us a 5-star review on Amazon. And every podcast, we choose one of those 5-star reviews, read it on the podcast, and you send us an email, we send you a signed book.
Absolutely.
Zach, let's take a break real quick and do a quick commercial.
Okay, absolutely. I think I know who you're talking about. Would that be Infinite Discs?
Yeah, Infinite Discs. If there was one thing that was in common with a lot of the emails I got last week or last 2 weeks was we need more commercials on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody just loves commercials. They want more commercials on podcasts. It makes it more like television.
Right.
So from now on, we're going to take 10 minutes of actual audio and do 20 minutes of commercials. How does that sound to you?
Perfect.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And we're not even going to get paid for any of them. We're just doing them because we love doing commercials.
Pro bono.
This is all what I'd like to call a fake announcement. But Infinite Discs, you know why I love Infinite Discs?
You can see your disc before you buy your disc.
That's right. And the website's just awesome looking.
It is. There is more information on your disc on Infinite Discs website than anywhere I've ever seen. I'm just the myriad of different information on there. You not only do you get to see the disc that you are going to purchase, color, several different angles. It gives you a large paragraph, I would say, of disc information that is comprehensive to the usage of this disc at whether it be recreational, intermediate, or even the professional level, and it makes recommendations for shots for that disc. It gives you a great pricing range, and it shows you what retail is, Infinite's price, and then the amount of savings that you get. It has a flight path rating powered by Inbounds for each individual disc.
Yeah.
Right there, so you can see what the flight pattern is going to look like out of the box.
Flight charts, dimensions, additional information. You can you select the type of plastic. You can select the stamp. For those discs, like the Champion dyed discs from Innova, or like the Vibram discs where every one of them looks different. You can pick out the one you want.
Exactly.
And they also do this thing on each one of them where if you're looking at a disc, it says... looking for something more overstable. So if you've got a disc in your bag and you're like, man, I really like this disc, but I need something just slightly more overstable than this to fill that slot. It's right there. The Infinite Disc is right there for you.
Infinite Disc, the foresight that they have on their website to help you help yourself is unparalleled in the disc golf world. And I urge any serious disc golf or even recreational that if you need to improve your bag, improve your game, or just better understand your plastic so you can throw it better, go review the discs or read the reports for each disc that you already have, and go learn something.
Yeah. And from now to the end of this month, you can use this coupon code, which is exclusive to our podcast, for 10% off of your purchase. And that is Zen, JUN 15. Again, Zen, JUN 15. Zach, do you use any apps for disc golf when you're out on the course?
I do.
What do you use?
Well, for finding courses, I wouldn't call it an app. I use a website. I guess Disc Golf Course Review has an app.
Do they?
I think so. But I use Disc Golf Course Review just to find new stuff. But a lot of what I use is just from my browser.
What if I told you that there's a app out there called Udisc, and we're getting ready to interview the maker of that app that also helps you find the courses locally?
I feel like that I need to talk to this man just in real life, not even on the podcast.
It actually is pretty cool. It's got a lot of features to it. Obviously, it's got your scorecard thing, which there's other apps that do that, right? But he's got another one that's like a throw distance. So
Get out of here.
Yeah, if you're standing on the tee and you launch a drive, you hit a button and then you walk to your disc and it maps it out how far you actually threw it.
I need this.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then there's another feature of it is if you're standing at your hotel somewhere where you're on vacation or something, you want to know where the local disc golf course is, it helps you find it really quick.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So we're going to be talking to Matt Kruger, who designed the Udisc app, and find out what his thinking was, and maybe he can tell us some more of the features that I'm not even seeing on this app. Okay, our interview today was with Matt Kruger. He is the designer of the Udisc app. How you doing, Matt?
I'm pretty good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. We already talked a little bit about the rain situation that's going on. It's keeping us off the course, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, I wish I could get out, but I just got done with a tournament this weekend, so maybe it's a little good relaxation time here.
Oh, really? How'd you play?
Oh, not as well as I hoped to, but can't complain too much. It was pretty fun. It was the Minnesota Majestic, hosted by Airborne, so it was pretty fun.
Hosted by Airborne. That's funny.
Yeah, Airborne Disc Golf. That's Kayla Visca's shop.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the Airborne tablets like you take before you get on a plane.
Yeah.
Who says we don't have sponsors?
Yeah.
Did you use your app?
For tournaments, I only use it sometimes. I kind of, it's kind of funny, like I'm the developer of a scorecard app, but sometimes you just don't want to know what your score is. And I'm kind of one of those people that when I'm playing really competitively, I kind of want to just focus on my game and not worry too much about my score. So.
Oh, that's a pretty good intro though, because then when you'd probably recommend the same thing to other people then, huh?
Well, it depends. Some people play differently when they know what their score is. Me, I tend to choke if I know what my score is.
Right.
So, when it's a really high stakes game like that, I usually tend to just either keep it in my head or, look at the paper scorecard. But the one thing I don't want to do is I don't always want that, like -2 or +5 or something showing right in my face all the time. So that's actually something I've considered doing, is making a tournament mode for Udisc so that you can actually hide your total score.
Hey, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your app. What made you design your app, and what thought process went into designing Udisc, and what makes it different than the other ones out there?
All right. Well, it started about 4 or 5 years ago. So I live in Minneapolis, and we have a lot of courses here. And my friends and I decided that we wanted to try to play at least one new course every weekend. So we would always end up on the other side of town, play the course we were going to play, and then end up wanting to find another course. This was about 5 years ago. Like I said, there really weren't any good ways using an iPhone or an Android phone to find courses quickly using GPS. So the impetus to create the app in the first place was I want something where I can just say, what's the closest course to where I am right now?
Oh, so it was a course finder. That's
Yep.
what you. That's what I was telling Zach about earlier. Actually, before I introduced you, and we did a little preliminary introduction of who we were going to interview today, and that was one of the features that I talked about on your app. He said that he used discgolfreview.com, and I said, do you use an app? And he said no, and I explained to him that the Udisc app does that too, so he's all aboard that.
Yeah, it's going to be very helpful, especially I play here in Virginia and I play in Alabama, and there's plenty of courses around, but it's awfully difficult to just figure out what's right there. Sometimes you just don't have cell reception. If it's all right there on an app, it'd be a lot better.
Yep,
Right.
Exactly. So it has the whole directory inside of the app. So even if you don't have network connection, you can probably use it. Of course, you need a GPS signal to get directions, but
Right. So it started as a course finder, and then what led it to being? I mean, because this app has a multitude of features, and I'd rather you go over them than me. I talked a little bit about them before we came on, but I'd love to hear how they came about in your mind.
Right. So, it started as just a course finder. And from there, I was pushed pretty hard by the community to turn it into a scorecard because there weren't a lot of good options out at the time. And so, it slowly evolved into a scorecard. And then from there, I added a bunch of stuff like measuring throws. And then eventually...
That's a cool feature.
Yeah, and then eventually that kind of led to having a catalog for your discs because you want to know which disc you threw. And then that eventually led to adding a course map creator and editor so that you can actually submit and create course maps for courses. Now, when I did that, I wasn't sure, if that was something that people would actually use. And so my goal was to make it as easy as possible because it's not necessarily very easy to walk around a course and plot every single point on the course, but as I got into it, I found some ways to make it usable, and now we've got about 50% of the courses in the entire world mapped.
That's awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and just in about a year and a half, too. So it's a pretty big number. We've got really active users, and that feature is something that I'm really proud to say that we think we accomplished pretty well and better than I've seen it done.
Yeah, Zach and I need to map some of our local courses because I don't think Newport News is... It's on there, but I'm not sure if it's mapped. Is that such a thing?
Oh yeah, I can check if it is, but that's one thing that we wanted to do is make it easy for people that actually know the courses like the back of their hands to create the maps instead of somebody that just comes in and surveys it really quick and maps it.
Sure.
Because this way, when pin positions change and things like that, you can have somebody that's a local submitting the updates, and then that they're coming from the right source.
Awesome.
Right.
So we've got a course finder, we've got a scorecard keeper, we've got course maps. We've got pictures of your discs and figuring out a catalog of your discs. What else can we do with this app?
The main feature I didn't touch on yet, which is probably the thing that people like the most about it, is its statistics tracking. And
that is cool.
The graphing abilities. So we've got, there's probably 8 or 9, I can look, there's like 8 or 9 or 10 graphs in there. So we've got like an overall player statistics. You can do things like average score per hole on a certain course. You can look at your total birdie bogey distribution to see, like 80% of the time I get par and 20% of the time I get birdies or whatever it is.
Or on hole number, 6 at Munden, 80% of the time I lose a disc.
Yep.
Right in the water.
I don't know if I want to put that graph in there, though. That might make people feel too good.
It's a little depressing.
See, that sounds like it's extremely helpful. I use my laptop at the house, and I use Excel to track all those things, and it's cumbersome.
Yep, and that's kind of where this came from. Is there's a lot of people out there that have these hacked together custom spreadsheets that they've been using for 20 years to keep their stats. And the goal for this whole thing was to, or at least for the statistics portion of Udisc, was to eliminate that and sort of unify it. And so that maybe leads me into the newest thing that we've put out for iOS is called Udisc Cloud. We're vigorously working on it for Android. Last night, I literally finished the very last feature that I'm planning to put in it, and it's going to go to beta in the next week.
Congratulations.
Yes, nicely done.
But just in a nutshell, what that is, it allows you to automatically share your scorecard data with anybody that you're playing with that also has Udisc. So this finally eliminates the problem where you've got 4 people playing together who all have the app and they all want their statistics.
Oh, okay.
So the problem before was that, somebody would maybe email you a screenshot of the scorecard and then you'd have to go and type it in yourself later. So what Udisc Cloud does is it allows one person to keep score or to caddy or whatever you want it to call it, and then everybody that played will get all those stats.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, I don't want Zach to know my score. Isn't that...
see, here's the other part, though, because it also has worldwide leaderboards, so now you can't hide.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's going to be the end of Zach and I.
Terribly.
Pat's going to find himself crying.
Did you just say terribly awesome?
Oh, I did.
I do that all the time. That's terrible. Terribly awesome. That's too funny.
It.
We're brothers from another mother.
Must be.
That's what it is.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, the app looks great. I've been using it. I've used it a couple times out on the course. My favorite feature on it is that the distance
throw measure.
Yeah. I think that's really cool because I may not use it the whole round, but there's that one disc I get off there and I got to know. So what is the best way to use that feature? Because you're talking about understable, overstable discs. Are you walking the flight path of that disc, or are you going to just go from point A to point B?
I think that you should go to point A to point B because that's really, I mean, when you're measuring something, if you measure it on a curve or something like that, that's not really accurate representation of how far your disc went. Just like when you're measuring a hole on a course, you don't necessarily measure, like a curve. You kind of pick points and say like there's a dog leg here and we'll pivot from here to here. But I'm glad you asked about that because there are, from time to time, there's confusion about that feature. The main thing that I have to stress with measuring shots is that cell phones are really not very good with GPS. They can get a pretty good lock on your location, but it takes them a while. So when people ask me about this, the main tip I give is before you push start measuring, stand there for a few seconds and wait until your location dot kind of settles because it'll jump around for a few seconds while it's finding you.
Right. That's like when you're using the GPS and you want some directions to someplace and like I'm at work and it still thinks I'm at home and it's like, all right, so if I did that on the disc golf course, it would say I threw this disc 45 miles.
Exactly. And, every once in a while I'll get a complaint from people saying that, this doesn't work. And almost 100% of the time, it's really just comes down to patience. Smartphones aren't perfect and there's not anything I can do to make your smartphone faster. So,
Right. And it's unfortunate that people's opinions are so fragile and just of something that they don't give it enough time.
I like that. I like the sound of that feature because now I'm going to be able to say I threw 19,000 feet and no one can argue it.
Yeah. Well, once Udisc Cloud for Android is out, so it's already out for iOS, and that's another thing you can do is there's online leaderboards for longest throws. So you can go look at like who's got the longest throw in the world right now, or who had the longest throw in the last week, and so on.
If they're telling the truth.
Well, right. And so that's one of the things about the leaderboards is that, if somebody is lying, I've had a couple instances where people have contacted me and said like, this guy can't throw 300 feet. So I don't know how he threw 500 feet. And then I'll try to follow up with the person and they'll be like, oh yeah, my bad. That was a mistake. And then they delete it and it's all good. So one thing
that's diligent on your part.
Yeah. I'm kind of a stickler about making sure everything is right. I want to put out a good product that people actually like to use. And I don't want, people misrepresenting their data, but in the end you're just hurting yourself if you want to lie about your throw or if something goes wrong and it thinks you threw it 45 miles, then maybe contact me or just delete the throw and it'll go away.
So when you see Zen Disc Golf through a putter 45 miles, I'll be getting that contact from you.
Whoa, that dude's good. So I understand it that your software has been added to the iWatch. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We recently released an Apple Watch app about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. One thing about that, so for people that have Apple Watches right now, which I know is not many people yet, Apple has pretty much locked down that device for developers. So there's not a whole lot that we're allowed to do. Like, for example, developers are not allowed to access any of the sensors in the watch. So you can't measure arm speed or anything like that. Now in the future,
that would be cool.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
That's definitely something that's coming though. So Apple said when they release iOS 9 this fall that they're going to let developers do that stuff.
Cool.
So there's going to be a lot more coming with the watch. We'll just say that. But right now, what it can do is it can show you the current scores on the scorecard. It can get you live updating distance to pin for the current hole, which is what I like the most.
That's cool.
And it can also make your phone speak the T order from your pocket. If you tap on your watch, it'll make your phone speak the T order.
Right.
So
nice.
So there's some cool things, but there's a lot more coming.
The first day that I tried it out, I was kind of confused by the speak the order thing because I would put in the score and then it would read the names. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of confused about that feature, but eventually I did figure out, it's saying who gets to go first.
So is it Siri? Is the Siri voice?
Yeah, so right now it's the Siri voice. I used to have it as the British version of Siri, which is actually a dude.
Very nice.
But then I switched it back to Siri because some people were saying like, oh, it's pronouncing my name wrong because it was British, not American. It's like, it would say like Don instead of Dan.
Right on.
Yeah.
So what's the future look like for Udisc? I know you've mentioned a few things that you're working on, but...
Mm-hmm. So right now, like I said, Android Cloud is coming the end of June. So right now it's June 3rd, I think. And We are just about to start the beta testing on it. We've been working on this for like 6 months now, and it's been, a huge effort, but the new version of the Android app is going to be, 10 times better than the current one is. I fixed just about every bug that is out there. We made the UI a lot smoother and more modern, and everything has changed.
Nice.
So once that's done, then we're going to add Android Wear support for the Android Watch folks out there.
Okay.
And that one should actually be able to control the scorecard right off the bat, because Android has a little bit less restrictions. And then after that's done, we will make you be able to control the scorecard from the Apple Watch as soon as Apple allows that. And from there, we have a lot of other ideas that I probably shouldn't discuss yet. But there's a lot in the pipeline. We have no plans to stop anytime soon. And we plan to continue going with this as long as we can.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad I got in at the bottom then.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know, did you have anything else that you wanted to add about Udisc?
Well, one thing I always like to say is that Udisc wouldn't be anything without all the people out there using it and, submitting course data and being on top of correcting things when courses change. And we really appreciate that. I mean, that's really awesome that people are so vigilant about correcting things when things are wrong. So if anything's wrong with your local course, if anything's wrong with the data in the app, send us an email. We try to get back to people as soon as we can. Sometimes we're a little flooded with stuff, but anything you see wrong, let me know. I'd like to make this as good as I can. So. Right on.
I'm what I like to call a power user. So almost every app on my phone has received, the developers received an email from me in one time, shape, or form. I'm like, IFTTT is not working with this app. I want it to work with every app. Are you going to work with IFTTT? Like, how would I do that?
Yeah.
I need it to auto-save to Evernote, which is going to auto-tweet my score and, I don't know, put something in my Dropbox.
There you go.
Yeah, anything's possible. It just takes time and money, right?
Right. Well, Matt, every episode we do this thing, or Zach does this thing. This is his mode. I'm sure you said you've heard the other episodes.
Yep.
Have you heard of the Ring of Fire?
I have heard of the Ring of Fire, but I've not participated in it.
All right.
Are you ready?
I suppose.
All right. 3 separate questions are going to come at you rapid fire. Answer as quickly as possible to the best of your ability. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Question number 1.
He got all serious right with you. Voice matching. Yes.
All right. Question number 1. You get to pick 3 discs for the rest of your life. What are they? Putter, driver, mid.
Putter, PA4, driver. Oh, man. I think I would go with like a Roadrunner just because you can make it do anything. And a mid-range, I think I would pick... This one's hard. This is going to sound silly. I'd probably pick a Dart. I love my Dart.
No kidding. That's a really interesting choice.
Yeah, I would have said M3, but I love my Dart.
Okay. Second question. You get to play 1 course for the rest of your life. Where do you play?
Blue Ribbon Pines.
He knew that one right off the bat.
That was a quick one. Third and final question. What is it like to be Matt Kruger, a relative of the infamous Freddy Krueger?
Oh, it's awesome. He sends me postcards once in a while. I don't really know what he's up to anymore, but,
Does he write those longhand?
He doesn't seem like he's good at typing, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he really likes technology too much. He's kind of a hermit.
Fair enough. It's got to be tough to visit his boiler room. It's kind of got to make holidays difficult.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've never been to his place for Thanksgiving, so...
Actually, I think Thanksgiving would be the number 1 holiday because who would carve the turkey?
Yeah, he's probably all over it.
Yeah, he's all over that. Well, Matt, do you have anything else for our listeners?
Just thanks again to everybody for using the app and keep the feedback coming. We only add stuff that people ask for. So, if you think of something, let us know.
Awesome, Matt. We'll stay on the line. We'll talk to you just a little bit after we do some finishing touches here. So everyone, check out the Udisc app on iOS, and it's now on Android. Is that correct?
Yeah, it actually started on Android.
Okay, so it started on Android. It's now on iPhone. So check out the Udisc app. Check out the cloud function on that. It's a really cool app. And check out zendiscgolf.com if I'm going to give myself a self-plug there. Thanks for listening to the podcast. And always remember, just throw.